Thank you very much for this opportunity. Myself and of course the other graduates who are graduating today from the University of Nairobi, we are very, very happy and excited for this opportunity. And of course the period we have had in terms of learning, it has been a very exciting opportunity to interact with Kenyans, to interact with classmates, and of course to learn much more than what we knew before. I was pursuing Masters of Arts in Economics, and I have found that University of Nairobi is very efficient when it comes to administration and when also it comes to the academics. Because most of my classmates, they have taken very good time here in campus without necessarily being delayed a lot. And it cuts across, and I'm very glad that we have a lot of efficiency in the University of Nairobi. The only thing I have noted, which I may want to raise for all of us as leaders to be aware of and also do something about it. I got an opportunity to be invited for the dinners for some of the people who are graduating today when they were finalizing their classwork. I particularly attended for engineers and also attended for doctors who are doing bachelors of medicine and surgery. And some of the demographics actually are very not encouraging, because I found that majority of the people who are now accessing those very prestigious courses like engineering, like medicine, there are very few from families that are not well to do financially. That is a wake-up call for all of us as leaders, because we need to see many people who went to day schools. We need to see many people from villages, village schools, pursuing those prestigious courses. But the current demographics, I think it leaves a lot for us to do as leaders. And lastly, we have had a lot of back and forth when it comes to the funding of education, and especially from government. We have seen different government officials contradicting the start of government when it comes to funding of basic education. And I want to request all of them, Ministry of Education and the National Treasury, there is nothing here to do in terms of back and forth, because the primacy of education when it comes to economic growth in Kenya cannot be gainsaid. And therefore, those who are concerned must continue funding education in entirety. We have seen that we have now decimated capitation for our schools, that even actually this year, we are on a 7-year low when it comes to funding of basic education. That's not a very good trajectory, because the basis at which economies grow is the basis of skills and knowledge, and of course education holistically. And therefore we call upon the National Treasury, tafadhali, hii pesa ya capitation, you have to keep releasing in good time so that our schools can run efficiently, our schools, and especially the secondary schools, can run without this financial handicap. And lastly, when it comes to funding for the higher education, we also need much more. We need much more in terms of research. We need much more funding in terms of higher education loans board, and particularly also to be able to give scholarships, and especially to those who are joining university from families that are not well to do when it comes to access of finances. When the sovereign signs anything, it's not the individual who signs, it is the government. And therefore, we call upon the government to honor our lecturers, to honor the professors who do this tedious work of dispensing knowledge in our institutions, and please honor their CBA. Our lecturers, our professors in Kenya are not remunerated in accordance to their skills and in accordance to the work they do. They need to be paid much more, and the starting point is to first honor their CBA so that our institutions can continue running uninterrupted. What I've seen as a servant of the people is that CDF is not about members of parliament. CDF is more about the Kenyan people. And from where I stand as a member of parliament for Keharu, I have seen what the father has done in terms of transforming our education standards in Kiharu, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of enabling those who are needy and those who are deserving to be in school in terms of bursaries. And therefore, of course, my stand is that CDF should be anchored in law so that we do not have the kind of disruptions we keep on having every now and then. When it is anchored in the law, I think our communities can be able to budget for this money without minding about whether it will exist next month or next year or the other period. So many Kenyans who have masters. What I can say about that is that I am particularly very happy and excited to have gained the kind of knowledge I have gained, the breadth and depth when it comes to economic matters. And as I keep saying, one of the issues that we have to be aware of as a country is that whatever we do in whichever sector, the economy of Kenya is the one that determines how the future of our country is. And therefore, one of the issues I've been talking about, and I want to repeat, is the issue about the appetite of debt in our country. The appetite of debt is too high. The appetite of odious borrowing is too high. We need to lower our appetite of borrowing so that we can guarantee Kenya currently and Kenya in the future. If we continue borrowing the kind of money we are borrowing, for sure, we are digging a hole that will be dangerous for our country. And in that regard also, we have seen the Federal Reserve of the US this week have lowered what is called the Fed rate. It has ramifications in our country, Kenya, and I'm sure the Central Bank of Kenya, which has very independent people there, and especially the governor of Central Bank, I call upon them to also look at what we can do in terms of monetary easing in our country, and not just monetary easing in terms of lowering rates, but also making sure that the government is not again borrowing too much domestically, borrowing the money that would otherwise be available for the private sector. Because that is the biggest problem we have in Kenya. That even as we do monetary easing and as we lower interest rates, we are not lowering interest rates for the sake of businesses. It has been for the advantage of government borrowing. And I think that needs to stop.
Lastly, on securitization.
Of course, I keep on saying securitization is an illegal borrowing. It doesn't matter the kind of defense you put forth as the officials from the National Treasury. The country cannot have separate books of recording debt. We must always have one book of recording debt, and securitization is illegal. And for sure, at the fullness of time, this will come to haunt those who are involved. All I can say is that even those who are engaging in terms of lending through securitization, they need to know that there is no sovereign guarantee. Any change of the political arithmetic in Kenya would always mean that they are not going to be paid. And therefore it is important for the government to be prudent, but even those other private sector like banks who are also lending money in those irregular manner, to also know they are putting their shareholders and their institutions into